I feel strongly about this. I feel passionately about this. You know who else feels so strongly about this? Have you seen Dr. Phil? I don't know if you're a Dr. Phil fan or not. I'm not necessarily. I never really watch his show, but I did see this clip, and I got to tell you, this was like the best ever of Dr. Phil. I've seen a few things over the years, but he really blew me away. He blew me away. I just loved, I love him now. He's got a fan for life in me because of what he said, and I want to share it with you because it's that compelling. Let's take a listen. We've divided it up into a few little parts here, and it gets better and better and better. But let's kick it off with just his disgust at this woke insanity.
As an American, I grow increasingly appalled at the anti-Semitism permeating so much of our country, especially by so many students at our elite universities, which have become left liberal woke hotbeds fostering intellectual rot rather than critical thinking, and tolerated or endorsed by their administrations. It has sadly spread to corporate America as well. This weaponized prejudice has never been more on display than when university presidents from Harvard, MIT, and University of Pennsylvania testified on Capitol Hill with sickening smugness and condescending to that panel with an arrogance and dismissiveness seldom seen in that forum. They were asked the simple question, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your policy against bullying and harassment? To be 100% clear, using the dictionary definition of genocide, the question becomes, does calling for the deliberate killing of a large number of Jews with the aim of destroying the Jewish ethnic group and the nation of Israel violate your policy against bullying and harassment?
Okay, so they were asked a pretty simple question, right? The kind of question you ought to be able to answer very, very easily. And yet, wait till you see what ensued. He did an outstanding job laying this out. I want to go to this tape.
University presidents Gay, McGill, and Kornbluth disgustingly evaded Representative Stefanik's questions. It depends on context.
The rules around bullying and harassment are quite specific. And if the context in which that language is used amounts to bullying and harassment, then we take action against it.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
The answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
Context.
Like, on the one hand, are they that stupid? Or is it just that they really believe it? The saddest thing of all is that they really believe it. The saddest thing is that those women there believe that Israel is at fault. And in my estimation, otherwise, why would you allow this? And that because of freedom of speech, these kids can get out there and protest, and they can have graffiti everywhere. And somehow that's just all part of free speech, and it's not actually harassment. I'm sorry, they're crossing a line. Can you imagine if the tables were turned? I mean, just realistically, like, dare I say this? What if a group of students went after some gay people like that, or trans, or what if they had a rally after the George Floyd? I mean, these are horrible things. And by the way, that should never happen either, right? Like, you can be all for free speech, but you also have to have some empathy. And you have to be able to know when, you know what, it's time and place, and this is not appropriate behavior. I mean, you can have an intellectual conversation if you want on something, but what they're doing, attacking other kids and putting up graffiti and trying to intimidate Jewish students, that crosses a line. And you know what, Claudine and the rest of you, if you can't get that, you're not that smart. You really shouldn't be running Harvard University after all, or MIT, thank you very much, for that matter. And Dr. Phil, my hero here. This is like the best minute of Dr. Phil you will ever hear in your entire life. I promise you. Like, you have to listen to this because Dr. Phil Again, making so much sense. He's a realist. He's fair. He has compassion, and he gets it. Listen.
You don't pick sides here. This is not about a territorial dispute. It's not about oppressors and the oppressed. It's not about religion or ideology. Any agenda that was on the table October 6th is forever gone. Conversation is over. How dare you sit there and play semantics with this congressional panel when you know what was done that day and what is being supported against your Jewish students? President Gay, you know they are stalking Jewish students on your campus, chanting shame, shame, shame as they impede their path to class. Yet you sanctimoniously tell Representative Kiley you could look Jewish parents in the eye and tell them their son or daughter would be safe and feel safe and welcome on your campus. No, President Gay, no, you cannot, and you know it.
Yeah. I think he's right. I mean, I struggle with this. I wrestle with this. Does she know it? I mean, is she so dumb and so myopic in her worldview that she actually thinks this is okay? I mean, that's the danger here, by the way, guys. Like, that is the danger with this DEI, CRT, ESG nonsense. The danger is there's so much groupthink. It gets so inverted and so twisted that nobody can see straight anymore. And somehow, because you're affiliated with a nation that they view as the oppressor versus the nation that they view as having been colonized, somehow it then you can't ever justify this stuff, by the way. I mean, like, look at what's happening, the violence. The violence against women, it's just heartbreaking, and it's so unbelievably cruel. But yet they're able to somehow justify it in their heads. I mean, that's what that tells me. When she sits there with a straight face and says that she's going to allow it, when the MIT lady says she's going to, I mean, wow. It is time for this to stop, okay? For the sake of humanity, it is time for this to stop. You know, Donald Trump was calling this stuff out ages ago, and he continues to call a lot of it out. And people are now responding in new ways. New polls today showing that Donald Trump is way up in a very important swing state. We had polls just the other day showing that he was up in some other swing states. We saw he was doing well in Georgia. We saw he was doing well in Arizona. There's a little bit of a challenge in Wisconsin. But guess what? Big news today that Donald Trump is ahead of Joe Biden by 10 points in Michigan.